Hello everyone, and thank you for joining today's presentation. By way of follow-up on Nigel's presentation and Stephen's introduction, I would like to give some background on the Jewish community of Belfast, and in particular the Berwitz family, who were leading members. The first major arrival of Jews in Belfast occurred in 1851, when several families with connections to the linen trade started trading in and out of the port. These members of the Hebrew community came mostly from Germany, and included the Jaffe family, of which Sir Otto Jaffe was twice elected to serve as Belfast's only Jewish Lord Mayor in 1899 and 1904. They would have been prosperous merchants, in the case of the Jaffe brothers, having trading addresses in Germany, Leipzig and Dundee, so you can see how the natural progression was towards Belfast, where the linen industry really took off from the 1850s onwards, principally because of the American Civil War, which stemmed the flow of cotton to Belfast and Manchester. The first synagogue in Belfast was erected on Great Victoria Street in 1871, and here you can see it, just looking down the street. A replacement apostolic church stands on the site today, and on the right-hand side you can see how the last days of the synagogue appeared in 1993. This first building of worship was funded by, amongst others, of course, the Jaffe family, of whom the head of the family, Daniel Joseph Jaffe, whose life is commemorated by the erection of an ornamental fountain at Victoria Square. You will be familiar with this landmark, which used to stand in the square until the 1930s, and here it is with its ornamental lamp, after which it was moved to Stranmillis embankment when it became an obstruction to traffic. It was, of course, brought back to Victoria Square as to near as possible the location in 2000. Subsequently, there was a second wave of immigration, this time mainly from Eastern Europe in the 1880s, much of which was then under the control of Imperial Russia. And following a series of pogroms against the Jews by the Tsar, many chose to leave their native countries in search of a better life, primarily in America. These countries would have included Poland, Lithuania, and in the case of the Berwitz family, Imperial Russia. The second wave of Jewish people to arrive in Belfast were from an impoverished background. They would have little rights or freedoms in the country of their birth, and stories abound that they were conned into thinking that they arrived in America by unscrupulous people traffickers of the time, who left them off at Belfast docks instead of the piers of New York. They settled in North Belfast on what was the Old Lodge Road, and if you get your bearings here, this is the Old Lodge coming down here. To give you more perspective, this is the Belfast Charitable Institute, or Clifton House, okay? And the Berwitz family would have been one of those early settlers. Here's a map of the area as it would have appeared at the time. As the community grew, the area became known as Little Israel. These were Orthodox Jews following a much stricter adherence to the faith, unlike the German Jews who arrived earlier. They refused to walk to the synagogue on Great Victoria Street. Jews are not, of course, allowed to use public transport on Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath. So eventually they persuaded Sir Otto Jaffe to build them a more convenient synagogue on Annesley Street in 1904. If you take a look at this map, you will see there is even an Israel Street just here in the area, which was once upon a time known as Little Israel. And here you can see that building, the second synagogue which still stands today, although no longer, of course, a synagogue since 1964, when the current synagogue was built at Somerton Road. It was latterly used as a physiotherapy department for the nearby Mater Hospital, but is now vacant. But you can see the grand interiors just on the right-hand side from some original photographs provided by Stephen. The Berwitz story starts from this area of North Belfast with Louis Berwitz, and this is his memorial in the Jewish cemetery at Carnmoney. As Nigel has already stated, the family first resided at Vicinage Park, which is just almost beside the second synagogue, and of course the Vicinage name comes from the house on the original site of St Malachy's College. He commenced trading as a furniture maker on York Street, we can see top left, from 1912. And along with many other members of the community, such as the Empire Finishing Company on the same street. So we will see that these recent immigrants brought with them many important skills which would lead to their future success in their adopted city. With success came increased prosperity, and soon Louis had moved up the Antrim Road to Kinnaird Terrace, which you can see here, where both Alexander, Alec, and Emmanuel, known as Mandy, lived with their parents and grandmother. This rapid increase in standard of living was very typical of the Jewish immigrants to Belfast of the 1880s. Their dedication to hard work and the drive and willingness to get on in society is very much a trait of their faith. But why serve in the British Army? Well, it is also in the Jewish faith that members of the Hebrew community must serve, when required to do so, their country, in which they have chosen to adopt as their home, hence the brothers joining the North Irish Horse, as you can see on the right-hand side. Another member of the family was Louis's daughter, Bessie Berwitz, who married Benny Spiro, a linen merchant from Dublin, at the Annesley Street Synagogue in 1919. The celebration continued afterwards at the Ulster Hall, which you can see here, from which this amazing photograph was taken in front of the grand Mulholland organ. And this is Benny Spiro here and Bessie just beside him. After the war, Louis' sons, Alec and Mandy, took over the business and soon expanded it to include furniture retailing as well as manufacture. In 1931, the brothers purchased the grand Metropole Hotel, seen here, just at the corner of York Street. You can see the Co-op just further down the street, and Donegal Street. They bought it from the Lord Mayor at the time, Sir Crawford MacCulloch, and although they continued to run it as a hotel, they had always more interest in the site rather than being hoteliers. So much so that by 1935, the hotel had been demolished and replaced by a new large furniture emporium, trading as Berwitz's walk-around store. You may ask why Berwitz's? Well, the brothers thought Berwitz would be too difficult for the Greater Belfast public to pronounce, and there's also an element that they had wanted to hide the Jewish roots of the owners of the business. The Berwitz brothers' new store introduced a new concept of furniture retailing in the city. They encouraged customers to walk around the entire building, viewing the pieces of furniture on display, but more importantly, made it easy for them to purchase them by extending credit on the hire purchase system. And you can see this on the right-hand side, from 5 shillings a week. In doing so, they became cutting-edge retailers in what would have been a rather conservative Belfast of the time. The Berwitz brothers also expanded their empire, opening other furniture businesses such as the Central Furnishing Company on North Street and Berwitz, which was another subtle derivation of the family name, of course, in Lisburn and Portadown. The Berwitz brothers continued to run the business until 1963, when they sold to Sir Isaac Wolfson, just on the right-hand side there, the chairman of Great Universal Stores, another leading multinational Jewish-controlled business that took over Rob's department store, just seen on the bottom right-hand side here on Castle Place, at the same time. The former Berwitz business then traded under the Cavendish Woodhouse brand, as you can see just in the corner of Donegal Street, where many of you may have purchased your 3-piece suites from over the years. So what is their legacy? From 2 young teenagers who served in the First World War to becoming leading entrepreneurs in the commercial life of the city of Belfast was certainly one. The Berwitz family also assisted with the Kinnaird Transport project at Malyle in County Down, where the Belfast Jewish community purchased a farm in order to set up a community for children evacuated from Nazi Germany in the late 1930s. And in doing so, along with other locations across the UK, saved many lives before the imposition of the final solution by the Nazis, which resulted, of course, in the murder of 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. Mandy Berwitz was also the first chairman of the Belfast Jewish Institute on Ashfield Gardens off Glandore Avenue in North Belfast, which was the nucleus for Jewish life in North Belfast for many decades, in addition to providing worship facilities for many of the Allied Jewish soldiers based in Northern Ireland during the Second World War, as can be seen in the bottom right-hand side of the slide. Mandy Berwitz died at the relatively young age of 57 in April 1955, and is buried at the Jewish cemetery at Carnmoney, where his father is also interred. So, are there any Berwitzes still around today? Not directly, but if you ever had a Zinger burger in any branch of Kentucky Fried Chicken in Ireland, or have shopped in either Bow Street Mall or the flagship shopping centres in Bangor, or recognised the Leslie House brand on large commercial and residential properties all over the province, all these enterprises originated from the entrepreneurial skills of Mandy's grandson, who still carries out the tradition of hard work and drive that his grandfather bought from Tsarist Russia in the 1880s. Thank you.